wrong for refusing to pay for my wife's cosmetic surgeries despite paying for my ex's while we were married? My wife and I, both 32, have been married 2 years now. My ex and I were married from 21 to 24. I paid for her cosmetic surgeries at 23 when I got a big sum of inheritance. We divorced because we fell out of love, and I met my now wife at 26. Dated her until I was 30 and then married her. My wife and I are planning on having our first and only child. I used most of my inheritance when I bought our home, and I put the rest towards an investment account that'll be our retirement money and part of the college fund for our kid, and towards an emergency account. We share finances, we both work, and we live comfortably. We are really planning for this child. My wife will take 3 years off to take care of the formative years of the baby, and I'll be the breadwinner. We will start trying next year because we want to save as much as we can for the baby's necessities. 2 days ago, she sat me down and said that she's been thinking about how having a baby might alter her body in ways she won't like. She says that she's putting all the risk into the pregnancy, body alterations, childbirth, risk of dying, while I'll be putting none. So she wants to be compensated for it. She wants me to pay out of my own pocket, not our joint account, for a few surgeries, most likely lipo and a breast lift a year after the birth. This is in case her resultant body is something she dislikes, and she said that she wants to make a contract and everything to make sure I don't back out. She repeated herself that this surgery will only be in case her resultant body is not of her liking. This is weird. Thing is, aside from the emergency fund I have and our savings for the baby, I don't have any money for that. I told her as much, and she said I could take a loan or something to pay for it. When I tried to protest, she reminded me how I paid for my ex's surgeries despite having no kids with her. I said it wasn't fair because even if she was asking 2 years before, I'll most likely not have any money since we are still saving for our kid, and I'll have to put all of our money towards the house and our care while she's a stay-at-home mom. She said I should think about it, but I said my answer was a total no, and she called me an asshole. So, am I? Oh, honestly, I think you need to be reconsidering who the mother of your child is, because she's not even pregnant yet, and she's already has this concern about her body and stuff, and I don't know, this just really gave me bad vibes. I don't think you're the asshole. This is just overall really weird.
My aunt tried to announce her daughter's pregnancy at my baby shower for my rainbow baby. I had posted this originally on Am I the Asshole and had been told that this would fit perfectly here, since my aunt is the entitled parent. My husband and I are finally expecting our rainbow baby after years of infertility and multiple miscarriages. It's safe to say we and our family are very freaking excited. My mom is probably the most excited. She's been planning our baby shower and making decorations for months. She's been the biggest help during this exciting yet scary pregnancy. A few weeks ago, my aunt told my mother and I that my cousin is pregnant. We are very happy for her. However, my aunt said their plan is to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower, since we are having a big party anyways. She said it's not a big deal and we both can share the day. I said absolutely not, because we have been waiting for this day forever, and it should be all about me and my rainbow baby. My mother is on my side and told my aunt that they better not announce anything at the party. My aunt dropped it and nothing else was said. Last Saturday was my baby shower. It's everything I've waited for. Everything is going good. No one has announced my cousin's pregnancy. When it was time for us to eat my cake, my aunt said, hold on everyone, and went outside to her car to grab something. That was the moment I knew something was up. My mother and I follow her outside, and my aunt decided to bring a cake announcing my cousin's pregnancy and some presents for my cousin. My mother immediately told my aunt that she will not be bringing those back into the rec center, and they will not be ruining my day. My aunt started throwing a fit, screaming, "This is a baby shower. It's for babies. Cousin is having a baby too, so this day should be about her too." My cousin now joins the screaming and says how pissed off she is that everything is always about me, and why do we always have to be happy for me? They would not stop screaming, so they were kicked out by the rec center's security, and half our family was upset that I wouldn't let her have a moment at my shower, so they left too. Now everyone is bashing my mother, myself, and Rainbow Baby on Facebook. Group family texts, anything at all. That's what we got. There is an update though. There is an update.
Why are they bashing Rainbow Baby?
What
the hell?
Little Rainbow Baby.
I'm sorry. I would Steve Aoki that cake.
That's what I was thinking.
Steve Aoki the cake.
Fuck,
Bam.
I would have flipped it.
Here, let me carry that for you.
It.
Let me carry that. Bam.
You heard
right
of
in the face.
You heard of a cake smash, bitch? That's what this is.
Yeah. You want a moment? I'll give you a moment. Are you kidding me?
I don't understand the half of the family that walked out. This is just like
fuck them.
Clearly half the family's fucked. Like
that's wild.
They half them believe this.
Clearly.
So.
When she said announce, I thought she was just going to be like, everyone
tap.
Yeah. By the way, not gifts
and a cake.
Ma'am.
Crazy.
For the update. Some people have asked for an update, and this is the type of update I never wanted to make. I'm truly heartbroken. First off, my beautiful baby girl came into the world 3 weeks early on June 15th.
A Gemini!
We have been so excited and are enjoying every minute of her. She's doing amazing and has already grown so much. Now the update on my cousin and aunt. On June 16th, the day after my baby girl was born, my cousin texted our family group chat and said she had a miscarriage. I was so sad for her, and despite still being upset with her, I told her if she needed anything to call me and I would be there for her. I spent hours crying for her, with her, and talking her through everything. Her feelings, my feelings, how I was able to cope with multiple miscarriages. She came over a lot, holding on to my baby, crying. I saw a change in her. She seemed so sincere. Well, all caps, my cousin lied. She was never pregnant. Apparently, a few days after her miscarriage, my cousin told her mother, my aunt, that she was loving all the attention she's getting and that she lied about ever being pregnant. She said she can't wait to magically get pregnant with her rainbow baby soon and get even more attention. A few days ago, my aunt made a comment about it to my grandma, and my grandma was very upset. My aunt said not to tell anyone, especially me, since I'd be so dramatic about it. She said it wasn't a big deal and everyone needed their time to shine, aka my cousin's future rainbow baby. Of course, my grandma told everyone, and I am so heartbroken. Now, I really don't know if my aunt did or did not know she lied to begin with. My aunt doesn't even care that she lied, and her behavior afterwards was disgusting, so I'm leaning more towards she knew all along and was in on it. However, we have all, not 100% sure about my grandma, cut ties with my aunt and cousin. I cannot believe someone would stoop so low as to lie about being pregnant, then miscarrying, then having a rainbow baby, all for attention. I can only write so much in a post, so if anyone has any questions or wants more details, I will try my best in the comments. Thank you.
Story time about how I'm the side chick and I love it. Disclaimer, this is not my story time with sending me on Instagram. I know you're all gonna think I'm a terrible person, but personally, I thrive when people hate on me. So go ahead and say whatever you want in the comments. My married boyfriend and I met 3 months ago. He works for a really big company and I'm not gonna say which one, but he has to travel a lot for this company. So we met on one of his trips. A little information about myself. I'm 36 years old and I consider myself a queen. I am very high maintenance and I expect a lot from my boyfriends. Just this year, I've broken up with 7 men. If you can't provide for me or give me what I want, I am literally gonna kick you out of my house. No broke boys allowed. I believe that men should take care of women, and I don't feel like getting a job, so I need to be taken care of. So this is what I would do to meet men. I would go to fancy golf courses and dress up really nice, and just start conversations with some of these guys. On this occasion, I met my boyfriend. He looked so good, and I saw that he was wearing a Rolex, so of course I had to go and talk to him. At first, he was not having it. He thought that I was way too young for him, but that's when I told him that I loved older men, and that if he was interested, we could go get a drink. Let's just say that he fell in love that night. Part 2 is up. Story time about how I'm the side chick and I love it. Disclaimers that not my story time is sending me on Instagram. If you're gonna be a hater, I don't care. You can judge me and be as mean as you want in the comments because I thrive off of hate. Once I had my boyfriend wrapped around my little pinky, we started talking about his wife. And this is when he told me that he does love his wife, but that he's bored in the relationship, that she doesn't make him excited anymore, and that she's more interested in their children. So I told him that I would give him everything that she doesn't. I mean, what kind of woman just ignores her man? She is so stupid for neglecting her husband and just only taking care of their kids. But that's just what I think. Like I mentioned in part 1, my boyfriend has to travel to come see me. This means we only see each other for about a week out of the month. But to be honest with you guys, I love it. I don't have to see him every single day or every single week. And he pays my rent and buys me whatever I want. And of course I have my own side pieces. I mean, a girl needs company when her boyfriend's not around. But here's the thing, my boyfriend wants me to move closer to him, and he wants to hire me as his personal assistant so that I can be around him all the time. But this means that I would have to meet his wife. He actually tried it out for a few days and it didn't go as bad. Basically, his wife liked me from the moment she met me. He didn't suspect a thing. But it was so boring having to talk to her and the kids and pretend that I was interested in his job. Like, I have no clue what he does. Anyway, I told my boyfriend that I was not going to move and that what we had was going to have to work. If not, I could drop him and find somebody else. But he's begging me to reconsider. He really wants me to be closer to his home. I mean, it's kind of messed up. What should I do? Story time about how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm now 24, but 10 years ago, a new girl moved into our town. Her and I quickly became best friends in school. She would always come over to my house and have dinner with me and my parents. My parents really grew to love her because she was so polite and really cared about me. The only thing was that she never wanted me to go over to her house. At first I thought it might be because she was embarrassed of her house or something. And eventually I asked her and she told me that her dad was abusive towards her mom and that was the reason why she didn't want me to come over. I felt terrible that she had to live like that, so I expressed to my mom that I was really concerned about her. So my mom actually asked my best friend if she wanted to come live with us for a little bit. Let's call my best friend Sarah. Sarah said no because she wanted to be with her mom. But my mom really wanted to help Sarah and her mom. My mom was in an abusive relationship herself when she was younger, so she understood what Sarah and her mom were going through. My mom decided to invite Sarah's mom over for dinner. That's when my mom asked her about their living situation, and Sarah's mom confessed that it was pretty bad. My mom suggested that she should try to get a divorce, and a few weeks later, she filed for divorce. We were all so happy because this meant things would get better for Sarah and her mom. And things did get better. Her dad moved out to his own apartment, and a few weeks later, he had a new girlfriend. I was able to stay over at Sarah's house, and it was really fun. One of the times that I was with Sarah at her house, her dad showed up. But he started making me feel really uncomfortable. He told Sarah that I was the prettiest friend she'd ever had. I could see him staring at me. After he left, Sarah apologized. I went home and tried not to think about it. A few days later, I was walking home when Sarah's dad pulled up next to me. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. One day that I was at Sarah's house, I decided to walk home instead of calling my mom to pick me up. As I was walking home, Sarah's dad pulls up next to me. At this point, I still hadn't forgotten what he had said about me, and I still felt really uncomfortable. He asked me if I needed a ride, and I politely said no. Then he started to laugh and asked me if I was scared of him. Of course I said no, but the truth is that I was. And he said, well, then get in the car if you're not scared of me. And I did. As we got closer to my house, he put his hand on my lap. He asked me if I had a boyfriend, and I pushed his hand away. Then he asked me why I was being so rude. I told him that he made me feel uncomfortable, that I just wanted to get out of the car and walk the rest of the way home. He said no because it would be dangerous for me to be by myself walking at night. He put his hand back on my lap and told me that I was really sturdy. That's when he grabbed my hand and tried to put it on his lap. Of course, I pulled my hand away really quick. Then he pulled over really fast and tried to kiss me. I was so beyond disgusted. I just started yelling. And this really took him by surprise because he must have thought that I was just gonna let him. While I was yelling at the top of my lungs, I managed to unlock the car and open the door. I basically threw myself on the ground and he started yelling at me, telling me to shut up. He tried to pull me back into the car, but at this point I was laying on the ground, so he had to pick up dead weight. He grabbed my foot and started pulling me back towards the car, but I started kicking him. He told me that I was overreacting and that he was just trying to be friendly. Luckily, a few of the neighbors heard me screaming because I was right in front of their house. They came outside and ran towards me because they saw me struggling with him. That's when the woman said that she was going to call the cops. He tried to tell the lady that I was overreacting and that he had only leaned over to put the seatbelt on, but I took it the wrong way. I told her that he tried to kiss me and she started calling the cops. That's when he drove away. I literally could not believe what had just happened. Finally, the cops arrived and so did my mom. I told him everything that happened, and I even told him that he had made a comment about me in Sarah's house a few days before that. They quickly started looking for his car and found him at a parking lot. They arrested him and he spent 2 nights in jail. His girlfriend then went to bail him out. She told the cops that he was with her and that I was just lying and that I made everything up. She even went as far as to tell the police that I had been hitting on him and that she had been a witness to it. She would even call my house at 2 in the morning and hang up. I even saw her car near my house and by my school, which means she was following me. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my best friend's dad tried to assault me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I called the police to tell him that his girlfriend was following me. That's when the cops said that I could probably get a restraining order against him and his girlfriend. Sarah and her mom came over to our house after they heard what happened. Of course, they felt really bad, but they weren't surprised. Sarah told me that that's why she never wanted me to come over because her dad had commented things about her friends before. Worst of all is that they couldn't keep him in jail for what he did to me, but a few months later he was finally put into prison because of something else he did. Apparently he had tried to steal a car or something. Remember the crazy girlfriend I told you Sarah's dad had? She kept following me for a long time. She would even show up to my school asking me if I wanted a ride home. Eventually I was able to get a restraining order against her, but she was really scary. A few years ago she tried to follow me on Instagram. I had to block and report her. I mean, what kind of woman would fight for a man like that? The good news is Sarah and I are still good friends to this day. We even went to college together and now have steady boyfriends. Even Sarah's mom remarried and she's really happy with her husband. I look back at what happened as a learning experience, but to be honest, if he ever gets out of prison, I'm scared. Shout out to my follower Remy for always supporting me and watching my lives. If you want a shout out, watch my lives to get picked. Bye.
I took my daughter, who's 14, to urgent care for a double ear infection yesterday. They took her weight and she is about 15 to 20 pounds overweight for her height and age. I was shocked by this and I asked her if she exercises at my ex-wife's house. She said that since she takes violin lessons 4 times per week and tutors the other 2 days, she gets home at 5:30 to 6 every night, has dinner, then takes a shower and does her homework. So exercising is difficult for her to achieve. She said she walks the dog for 45 minutes every morning and every evening. I told her that we're going to take a walk every night while she's at my house and that her current weight needs to come down. I told her that I didn't want to make her feel awkward about it and that she could talk to me. She nodded and just turned away. Today, I went to the store and bought Weight Watchers frozen stir-fry bowls and told her that if she was going to eat dinner tonight, she could have one of those. She looked at them and asked me, is 180 calories enough for dinner? I replied yes, and if she was still hungry, she could have a yogurt. She then went to her room and hasn't spoken to me since. My ex-wife texted me and said my daughter called her crying and she called me harsh and asked for what I did. I proposed that she do a sport and she said that she doesn't have time because of orchestra. I told her that maybe orchestra was something that she could come back to after doing a sport, and she didn't say anything, only stared at me and then went on her phone and started typing something seemingly very angrily. I don't know what to do. Am I wrong for trying to get her to be healthy?
Story time about why you should never, ever, ever do drugs. So a little background information. In my town, on the 15th of June this year, 2 girls got kidnapped in my hometown. So I kind of knew these 2 girls. I mean, they went to my school, but that was really it. Because low-key, I didn't want to be friends with them, and I kind of hated them. They were in 7th grade, I was in 8th grade, so they were probably like a year younger than me. Anyway, so it was a Wednesday, and the last time they had been seen was at 8 p.m. with a 30-year-old man. They were supposedly doing drugs outside of a McDonald's. Well, I guess this man saw that they had been doing drugs, and he wanted some. Before that, I guess he kind of eased into the question because he was like talking to them, getting to know them, and I guess he thought he had a really good shot at getting some drugs. But when he asked, they said no. So then he asked a few more times and they finally gave them to him, but whenever they got closer, he grabbed both of them, put him in his van, and drove off. And he hid them in his house. Like for part 2. Part 2 of why you should never ever do drugs. So like I said, he asked for them again, and finally the girls decided to give him some. But when they got closer, he grabbed both of them and shoved them in his van, drove off. Well, he ended up driving to his house and decided to hide them there. Well, one of the girls' aunts posted something on Facebook saying that both of them were missing, and soon the news made an article that literally said, "Drug addict and her friend gets kidnapped." They went missing for like 6 days, and on the 22nd of June, they were found, but now they won't stop bragging about how fun it was to get kidnapped. And that is why, still to this day, I absolutely despise these girls.
Am I the asshole for frightening a snooping neighbor by opening my door and causing her to fall? I, 37 female, live in a pet-friendly, no breed restriction apartment building. It's important to mention I live in a city with a significant crime rate. I live on the 3rd floor and I don't share a landing with any of my neighbors, and anyone coming up to the 3rd floor is coming there for me. We don't have a secure gate or front door to the building. I have a 40-pound dog, not aggressive in the slightest. Her one guarding tendency is to bark at the door if she hears anyone outside. She's part hunting hound, so she has a big vocal howl bark. This is really comforting because sometimes people will come up to my landing who have no business being there, and my dog will actually scare them away. Am I the asshole for frightening a snooping neighbor by opening my door and causing her to fall? Downstairs neighbor, 45 to 50 female, has been on my landing several times. Sometimes she brings mail, but others she's just lurking. She once even moved my mat. I walk my dog, she asks where my other aggressive dog is. Each time I tell her I only have one dog and that she sounds aggressive at the door. Last week, my property manager emailed me about reports that I may have 2 dogs. I wonder where they got that report. Today from the people, I saw her bending in front of my door but couldn't tell what she was doing. I swung it open and my dog was standing beside me loudly barking. She fell on her ass because she was looking at the mat again. I said, "See, just one dog like I told you." I offered to help her up, but she called me an a-hole and a b-word and said the building was better before I moved in. Am I the asshole for telling my fiance to get her insecurities in check and grow up after she humiliated my coworker? Recently, I, 25 male, got engaged to my amazing fiance, 24, Amy. I was the happiest I'd ever been when Amy said yes and was nothing but excited for our wedding. When planning, we both agreed to invite our coworkers. As I checked off the list, Amy spoke up and said that everyone can come except for Tally. Tally is one of my closest friends, so this surprised me. She's met her multiple times and there never seemed to be an issue. When I asked why, she said she doesn't like her and finds a relationship uncomfortable. She said she thinks Tally is the type of person to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After more talking to see where she got this idea, it turned out that this was based on nothing but Tally's looks. Am I the asshole for telling my fiance to get her insecurities in check and grow up after she humiliated my coworker? Recently, I, 25 male, got engaged to my amazing fiance, 24, Amy. I was the happiest I'd ever been when Amy said yes and was nothing but excited for our wedding. When planning, we both agreed to invite our coworkers. As I checked off the list, Amy spoke up and said that everyone can come except for Tally. Tally is one of my closest friends, so this surprised me. She's met her multiple times and there never seemed to be an issue. When I asked why, she said she doesn't like her and finds a relationship uncomfortable. She said she thinks Tally is the type of person to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After more talking to see where she got this idea, it turned out that this was based on nothing but Tally's looks.
I'm attracted to my father-in-law and I kind of want to hook up with him. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. My husband and I met a little over a year ago. We actually met on vacation and we happened to live in the same city, so we decided to go on a date when we got back. 2 months later, we got engaged. My family was completely against it though. My parents thought it was way too quick for us to get married. But here's the thing, I'm 32 and I was desperate at that point for somebody to just ask me to marry them. And looking back, that was completely wrong of me. My parents were so against it that when they met my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, they told him that we should just date a little bit longer before we even decided to get engaged. But of course, eventually we made the decision on our own and my parents just had to deal with it. By the time we had gotten engaged, I had only met his mom. His dad traveled a lot for work, so he was pretty much never home. So here's a little backstory on my husband. He was born in the same city I was, and his parents had him when they were 14 and 15. They were incredibly young. So his parents were more like his friends. They had so much fun and hung out together. It was always a really good time. We decided to have an engagement party, and that's when I met his dad. And it was infatuation at first sight. Part 2 is up. I'm attracted to my father-in-law and I kind of want to hook up with him. Disclaimer is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. I decided to start flirting with him a little bit more. I kind of wanted to see what he would say. My parents-in-law invited me and my husband over to their house for barbecue. So I decided to wear a thong bikini. My father-in-law was grilling in the backyard and my mother-in-law was inside making a salad. So of course, I took off all my clothes and I pranced around the pool in my thong bikini. I positioned myself perfectly so that my father-in-law had a great view of my ass. I also went up to him and started talking. I would touch his shoulder every now and then. That's when he said, if I didn't know any better, I would think that you're flirting with me. Then he smiled. I almost died. I laughed with him too. And then my stupid husband came outside. That was 2 days ago. You guys tell me, but in my opinion, it sounded like he was liking it. For the rest of the barbecue, every time I would turn to look at him, he was always looking at me, so I knew it was working. But now I'm like, what's the goal? Do I really want to ruin my relationship with my husband and ruin his parents' relationship? Or do you think we can keep it on the down low? What should I do?
Story time about how my sister was hooking up with my boyfriend. Little background information, I was 15 and in 10th grade, and I have never had a boyfriend before. Any guy that I was sort of talking to, we never made it out of the talking stage. But fast forward, I met this one guy who we're gonna call Jake, and because of how tragic my love life was, I didn't expect us to get into a relationship, but he ended up asking me to be his girlfriend. So of course I said yes. I was super excited that I had a boyfriend, and then he met my family. And my older sister and I were like super close, so I told her all about him, and she just couldn't wait to meet him. Real quick, I just want to give a big shout out to Lumino for sponsoring today's video. Lumino Whitening Kit is one of the best ways to whiten your teeth without paying hundreds of dollars, especially if you have sensitive teeth. This is the next best thing. Although I have veneers, they only cover the front of my teeth, so my teeth can still be very sensitive to certain chemicals that other brands use in their products. If you guys want to go check out their 7-pack for under $15, the link is in my bio. So whenever he met my sister, she was being super talkative to him, and I thought it was just because she was excited to meet him, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found out my sister was hooking up with my boyfriend. So like I said, he came over, he met my sister, they got along super well. Fast forward, my parents decided to have a family gathering, and my sister was like begging me to invite my boyfriend, which I didn't plan on inviting him at all because my family is super annoying and would make a big deal about the fact that this is my first boyfriend. She was like, okay, but if you guys are seriously in a relationship, I think that he should meet your family. So I ended up inviting him. So my mom called me to the kitchen to help pass out drinks, which was super annoying because my sister was literally doing fucking nothing. So after I'm done with that, I'm looking for my boyfriend and he's nowhere to be found. So I go upstairs, and as I'm about to walk up the stairs, both of them come down. And when I asked what was wrong, like why they were upstairs together, she was like, oh, I was showing him to the bathroom, which I felt super weird about, but because she was my sister, I let it go, because you're supposed to trust your family. Stuff started. Part 3 about how my sister got with my boyfriend. So things started to get really sus because every time that he would come over, they would always find a way to be alone with each other. So fast forward, my sister and I are supposed to go to one of her friends' parties. The whole time though, she kept asking me if I would invite my boyfriend. And no offense, I love my boyfriend, but I need space away from him sometimes. And not to mention, I felt like I was dragging him around like a dog because she was the one who would want me to invite him everywhere. Fast forward, I end up inviting him to the party. My sister gets super drunk, really sick, and my boyfriend offers to take her to the bathroom. And I was like, excuse me, I'm her sister. I can do that. Thank you very much. So after I say that, my sister looks at me and she was like, I would appreciate it if you would just stop being like this because I feel super sick right now. Like, okay, play the victim. Anyway, so I go to check on them in the bathroom. They're not in there. And one of the bedroom doors was open, so when I went in there, I saw them doing the nasty. I asked her how long this had been going on, and she said it was since the first time that they met. And now I'm ignoring my sister until she goes to college.
I made my teacher cry. Story time. When I was in second grade, I had this teacher and she was the devil, and we're gonna name her Miss Jackson. And the reason I call her a devil is because she would say really mean things to me to my face. She would be like, Ty, stop talking like that, you sound like a little girl. Or, your favorite color can't be pink, you have to choose one of the boy colors. And since I was so young, I didn't understand how serious these things were, and I didn't know I can get her in trouble. And I would go home sad like every single day. Eventually my mom noticed and she asked me what was wrong. So I told her some of the things that Miss Jackson would say to me, and my mom was mad. And my mom was like, the next time she says something to you, say something rude back, and if you get in trouble, I'll handle her from there. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. Now, Miss Jackson was a heavy lady, so I knew if I said something rude to her, it would be about her weight. Though we don't body shame around here. We don't do that, okay? So I'm in school eating lunch with my friends who happen to be girls, and Miss Jackson comes up to me and she's like, shouldn't you be eating with the boys? So I looked at her and I was like, shouldn't you be eating a salad? And the lunchroom started laughing, and then she started crying.
Okay, so story time. So basically one time in 5th grade, my dad took me to get breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts. We went there before school like always, and as we were there, this strange man outside was staring at me and like making faces. Super creepy. We didn't know him or anything, so we walked inside and I was kind of freaked out. I told my dad that I was creeped out by him and he told me that nothing bad was gonna happen. Or so he thought. So we got our foods and we ate it, everything was fine, chill. After we were done, we got up to leave. The man was gone by now, so I felt better. But then on the way to my school, I saw him walking on the sidewalk. Like, I figured he was going to his house or, like, somewhere else. When we got to my school, no one was outside. It was kind of weird. We went to open the door because my dad was a part of the PTA, so he came in with me. The door, for some reason, was locked. My music teacher out of nowhere ran out and brought us inside quickly. She told us that our whole school was on code red. Scary. And that a man was in our school, so we went inside and I went and hid in the music room. Okay, so part 2. So I went and hid in the music room. Dad was in the PTA room, which was close by. Literally started crying because I was so scared and they weren't telling us anything because we were too young. I guess they didn't want to scare us. That didn't work. Once the code red was over, about 30 minutes later, we went to class. I went to go find my dad and make sure he was okay and see if he knew anything, and he didn't. When I got in my classroom, we were all talking about it, and my teacher said that the man just walked in and told them he was looking for one of his teachers from like 15 years back. Huh? They gave us a description of the man, and I realized it was the same man from Dunkin' Donuts. He just walked in my school. I was freaked out because I saw him at Dunkin' Donuts before school started, and I hoped I never saw him again. But a few weeks later, I saw him again multiple times at the same Dunkin' Donuts. He literally just stared at me all the time. So yeah, that's my little story.
Story time. So once upon a time in grade 5, I was going through this really strange phenomenon where like 5 of my adult teeth decided to all come in at once. Now I already had this really weird obsession with when I had a loose tooth, I loved to like pluck it out of my face like berries off of a vine. So as you can imagine, sitting there with 5 loose teeth in my mouth felt like I was in an orchard on a hot summer's day. My brothers had just rewatched The Exorcist with me a few nights before while babysitting. So its cinematic masterpiece was so ever fresh in my mind as I sat there not listening to my teacher drone on about numbers, secretly popping my teeth out with my tongue and letting my mouth fill with blood. Till I noticed my dear old classmate Tristane, who used to eat rulers and pick on me, was staring at me. So I looked him dead in the eyes, opened my mouth slowly and let all of the teeth and blood just dribble out onto the desk. Then I said in a low grumble, "You will die tonight." He started screaming and then I had to go to church.
One day my cousin made a Tinder and we were having a family barbecue, so he came over. He was like, "Oh my god, Sam, like this really hot girl just like matched with me." And then he shows me. And then I see the profile and it's literally pictures of Madison beer. But the name on the profile was like Kalani. I was like, bro, I don't know who you think you're fucking texting, but it's not Madison beer. You're texting someone's fucking auntie right now. Whole ass auntie. He's like, "Guess we're about to find out." I was like, no, what the no? He's like, "Yeah, I just gave her the Addy. She's about to pull up. Like, we're gonna meet. Like, it's all cool, Sam. Like, trust me." Trust me. Trust me, he said. I trusted him. So I see a car pull up, and he's like, "Oh my god, I think it's her." I was like, "Oh shit, what if I do meet Madison Beer?" The door freaking opens, and this old lady pops up. I look at my cousin, and I'm like, Go hug her! Go, you were so excited, it's Kalani, the one and only, come on."
This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, "Oh wow, that's my neighbor, like we always suspected something bad about her, our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her," basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom. Part 2 of catching my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So my best friend tells me all these things that my neighbor was saying about me, obviously. And I got really upset, so I went home and I just started to cry. Because for some reason I felt like when I was younger, every one of my friends' parents hated me. And I never really knew why. I was always the type of person to let my friends do whatever they want and encourage them in doing whatever they want, whether that's breaking the rules or following the rules. So I mean, I guess that could be something, but I'm just being a supportive friend, sorry, I got off topic. So when I told my mom, she was like, "Okay, come with me, I'm gonna knock on her door." And I was like, heck no, I do not feel like dealing with this. "Mom, you deal with it." So she calls her up on the phone, puts her on speakerphone, confronts her about the situation, and this lady starts going on about how she loves me like I'm her own child, saying that I was never a bad influence on her daughter, and that she actually wanted me to hang out with her daughter more. That's not what she was saying at Bagel Sale.
If you can solve this riddle, you're a genius. There was this woman and she was a serial killer. She would take men on dates and then poison them and kill them. One day she goes on a date with you. Ooh, but she can't go through with it because she's so in love with you. Eventually you two end up getting married and you buy a house together. When you buy the house, she claims the basement for her work and she says that you're not allowed to go down there. You say okay and you're happily married. But as time goes on, you get really curious and one day she leaves for work and you decide to go downstairs and see what's down there. When you go downstairs, it's pitch black and you reach around the walls to see if there's a light switch to turn on, but there isn't. As you're feeling around the room, there's a light bulb above you that is unscrewed a little bit. You screw it in a little bit more to turn on the light. Immediately you see all the dead bodies that she's ever killed and you're in shock as you're looking around for a while, but then you hear her car pull up in the driveway and she's home from work. You quickly unscrew the light bulb, run upstairs and sit down. When she gets home, she goes downstairs to check on her dead bodies and she immediately knew that you were in there. How did she know? Pause this video right now because I'm about to say the answer. It was because the light bulb was still hot.
So for the first time in a really long time, I actually had something scary happen to me last night. So I was up really late because my boyfriend's in Vegas and their time difference is 2 hours behind. And he goes to bed really late. So for the past few days, I've been staying up till 4 a.m. until he falls asleep. So last night I decided I wanted to get some food, a late night snack. And at this point, I think it's 2 a.m. And in my basement, I hear some rumbling and fumbling, but nobody's down there. Everybody's asleep. I don't have any pets. My dog's dead. I don't have any pets. So I'm in the kitchen listening, and my kitchen is right here, and the stairs to the basement is right there, and my house is low-key empty, so you could hear everything. And I start hearing little whispers, a little. So I'm sitting there eating my snack, and I hear that shit, and I pause the YouTube video I was watching, and I start hearing footsteps come upstairs. So I sat in my backyard for the rest of the night, up until 3 a.m., and then I went inside and went to bed.
I almost got shot at a party. Story time. So back when I was 18, one of my homegirls decided to visit me. Keep in mind, I lived about 2 hours away from her. In the ghetto. Gra-ta-ta-ta. Anyway, she gets to my house. We're having a great time. We're chilling, we're vibing. Then one of my friends hits me up and says, "Hey, yo, Kenzie, there's a party tonight. You should slide." So of course, I tell my homegirl, "Bitch, it's a party. Let's go." My friend was kind of nervous about it because this was her very first party that she's ever went to in her life. So she didn't know if she should go or not. And I was like, "Girl, you're gonna be with me. You're gonna be with Kenzie. Baby, we're gonna have a good time." But I also did tell her if she didn't want to go, she can just chill with me and we could drink at the house. She ends up saying, "Fuck it." And we both go to the party. So we Uber to the party. This bitch is fat. There was hella people at this party, but it was lit as hell and everybody was turned the fuck up. Well, anyways, in the front of the house, there was a drug deal going on. And that's when everything goes south.
Had to leave, I just couldn't bear to stay. Nothing's back in its place for me anyway. I wanna see what's hiding across the sea. If there is something out there for me. Take a train, ride a cab, catch a flight. Travel daytime into the night. All alone, grab a backpack and light. That's what life should be all about. Go to Paris, London, Amsterdam, New York, Miami. Got a plan. See Stockholm, travel through your pack.
Storytime of how I caught my teacher and my best friend doing the dirty. So everything was fine up until the middle of the year when she started acting really strange, and so did he. So at the time, I was 13 and she was 14. And I'm pretty sure my teacher was in his mid-20s or 30s. So basically, she's the type of girl who literally hates school and would do anything to get out of class. Then I noticed her getting early to class and not leaving until everybody else left. Then I started paying a little more attention, and he would always walk by her desk and slip her notes and candy and just weird stuff, and it was really, really strange to me. He also moved to her desk right next to his, which his was all the way in the back left corner of the classroom. He would also always make jokes with her, which I didn't really understand until I found out they were sleeping together. So on Friday, my mom messaged her parents asking if they could pick me up Monday because my parents were going out of town that weekend and I hated riding the bus. Well, I'm guessing she didn't know that I was going home with her Monday. So that Monday, I got into her mom's car and I asked her mom where she was. Her mom said that she was failing math and her math teacher offered to tutor her. This teacher was also brand new. I'm running out of time, so like for part 2.